Where's it for tonight? Maybe you don't know there's a shir.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, Shalom, I just asked where you were.
The guy upstairs was explaining to me something.
Huh?
I was asking a question to the mashpi upstairs, so just took me the next minute.
Very good.
Sorry. It usually doesn't happen.
We couldn't have possibly been crazy to do that you weren't there.
Yeah.
Today is Chaf Vav Iyar Samech Tes. We're in Hemshik Samech Tes from the Rabbi Shava on Amid Lamed base.
Alright, so we go down to the Tchilas view in the shit of the Pardes. We saw that he was of the opinion that in the Mishnah, in his view of the Mishnah, the Eser Sfir is believe ma, midos and Eser ein lahem seif. הכוונה שהעשר ספירס אין רק כוח הגבול, היינו רק כוח המגביל, ליש בחינס הגבול חוץ לאצילה. אבל באצילס גופה אינו בחינס גבול. So the way the Rebbe learns that perik over there, you have to be sort of medactic, you have to learn it carefully, and then you begin to see how the Rebbe understood the words of the Pardes. That the gvul of the spheres and how they are in Atzilus, we're going to see that even though there are differing opinions when I get to how is the gvul, everybody agrees that the gvul, which is B'Golui, Palma Rishon, as you might call it, the first time from the Eivesha, thanks. What was this? Is in effect the Kalim of Esesphiras Ta'achilas. Everybody holds that they are the Gilead, the Indian Agvul for the first time. Bifnei Atzmei Mamish. However, the Pardes learns that they're not a Indian of Gvul Kipshutai, but they are like a mocker from which Gvul will appear in Oilamas Bria Yetzirah Asir. In other words, that they are a koyacha hamagbil esa oyer, that it should be b'pchinas gvul chutz le atzilas. Avo b'atzilas gufa eina b'pchinas gvul. Ainu lo b'pchinas hagbola de chokma v'esed. V'torik loima shezo al derech shizboa lakamon b'inyan seichu mufla. Now, what does it mean with that? It's muvur. At the beginning of the Hemshech Eter, it's brought down that there are two different types of seichel, and even though they're not really seichel, we call them, nonetheless, we give them the name seichel. Now, one is seichel mufrash or muvdal, and one of them is seichel mufla. Now, what is the difference between them? A seichel mufrash or a seichel muvdal is separated, but it can't. In other words, it's l'mayla mi seichel if a mesuyam, but it could be that b'ribi his dachas at the kli on the part of the other, that he might come to know what eventually, or when I say the other, or the makablim, because they may come to know what it is. So therefore it's only called mufrash, Loshen Hafrosha. And therefore we find by the Nozir, it's written in Pasha Ba'aleischa, and all that far away, it's written Ish ki yafli Loshen Pele. Okay, that's already right to what we're talking about here. So I have to wait a minute. That's already more right to what we're talking about here. Rashi al-Kabbalah says it doesn't mean yafli, yaflish. Rashi says that the idea of wondrousness is to separate all. However, in separation Gufa there are two, as it were, levels. And there's a Inyan which is separated, but maybe the Makabel might eventually be able to get at it if he'll make a ribui effort and purification of his kli. And then there's another inyan which will always remain muvdal me Makablim in their ability to be maskil. And it's much from that maybe it might remain even le'achrei Yemais HaMashiach Aliyas Ashiyir Liyotzit Love. Maybe the certain yonin will always remain muvdal, even though it's shy to call them seichel mufla. Now that's al derech. To give an example of the first type of seichel, which is muvdal b'tachlis, but it could be that the mensch might eventually come to it. But as we find in the Gemara tells the story that Moshe Rabbeinu, when he foresaw when he was on Har Sinai with the Eibishter, he foresaw what was going to happen to what was going to happen to Rabbi Akiva, because the Eibishter told him that there's certain things that you're not going to be able to reveal. Only Akiva ben Yosef will be able to reveal them. And there was even a possibility that Moshe Rabbeinu said, no, maybe give the Torah al Yada im Kain, and therefore the Eibishter said, no, that there's certain things in you that you definitely have to do it. And then he showed Moshe Rabbeinu what would be the unfortunately the istalchus of Rabbi Akiva. So Moshe Rabbeinu saw that. He said, Zu Torah v'zu Sechora. But that's just, by the way, that we see on certain occasions that Moshe Rabbeinu, with all his unbelievable aliyahs and his unbelievable singularity in the whole history of mankind, there's nonetheless a certain human trace in Moshe Rabbeinu. That when it becomes hard for the Yidden and for other people, Moshe Rabbeinu can't put up, he can't take it. And like we see when things got worse in Mitzrayim, he came to the Eibush and he said, Lama hora Esa lo amha hazeh, and that cost him a lot, that kasha. I mean, so Rashi writes over there, because of that he never got into Eretz Yisrael. What everybody says, we didn't even talk about that here. Whatever, all on Rashi doesn't know that's the reason he get into Eretz Yisrael. I mean, there are other reasons are given why he didn't get into Eretz Yisrael. That's a wondrous Rashi and a wondrous thing. But nonetheless, it cost Moshe Rabbeinu heavy, that kasha. Because Rashi brings it Pasha Va'ero, David said, what is it we don't have the fathers anymore? They didn't ask any questions. They just went with the simplicity, and you ask questions. So it had to cost Moshe Rabbeinu dearly that he asked a kasha. And here we see another example. Moshe Rabbeinu's on the Har, and he sees what's going to happen to this unbelievable Talmud called Rabbi Akiva. And he says, Zu Torah, Zu Schora. He said, Eibishter, that's the reward that your great learners and your great studies, that's what they get. What Moshe Rabbeinu was he couldn't take it. So we see there's a very human, how do you call it, mitfeeling, it's called in this, to feel along with the Jews on the part of Moshe Rabbeinu. And we see exactly the same thing by the Rebbe. Well, that's what the Rebbe, when the lady was killed by the Schwarzer, the story in Crown Heights. We see the Rebbe said, the Rebbe said he just can't take it. The Rebbe said very things that he wasn't ragil, cloud to say. The Rebbe said them very painfully, very he tied himself with the Eivishter. So we see that those who are Moshe Rabbeinu, they can't take it. Anyway. Let's get back to our thing. So the Eibishter answers him and he says, Shtoik kach olav machshova lefonai, you have to be quiet, don't ask any shilas. That's the way it went into my machshova. Kach olav machshova lefonai. Listen to the Gemara. So what Chassidus says is that doesn't mean to say that there was no time. It doesn't mean to say there's absolutely no time. And he just said to him, you don't need to know anything, just don't ask anything. That's what he said to him, Begoloi. But the Pneumis said, Shtoik, kach olav b'machshova lefonai. He didn't just say, that's the way I do things and forget it. He said, kach olav b'machshova. For now we see that in the machshova, elokis, in the divine machshova, there is episa Anasinus Mokim Lazeh. Yesh b'zeh izeshu. That's called Chochmas Timur. That's the whole Indian of Chochmas Timur. If I mean the Chitzenius of Chochmas Timur is a mocker to Chochmas Atzilus, as they state in Drusha Chassidut. And I mean, that's soft, there is some sort of a, if you were to go up into tremendously higher levels of Hasoga, you might obviously reach what was going on there. However, Seichel Mufla, Seichel Mufla means something really moved up. Very, very, does, and it could mean that maybe nobody will ever quite manage to but there is in that also Gufa a divine reasoning kaviyah. And it's called Seichel, so it's called Seichel Mufla. In other words, it's beyond altogether, but it is in that whole Geda. So therefore, if we're going to say that there's such a thing, for example, as Chokhmah, according to the Ramah, and he says it's not really Chokhmah, it's only a Koyach which will provide Chokhmah later on in Biyah. Is in Cain, how do you call it Chokhmah? Just call it Ayin, or call it Ephes, or call it something, and say that from that they'll pop out a Yinifu Chokhmah in Biyah. The Rafah says that Ravinon, he's going to mention it later on as we go along, that we have to say that there is a certain Inyan there, but it's by way of wondrousness and hafla, but it's nonetheless shy to the whole Geda of Chokhmah. And that's alternative what we've seen in many of our Drushim, in many of our Shurim. We've seen the Inyan of what we call Hasogas HaShlila. Do you remember about that? We've had this concept of Hasogas HaChiyuv, and then we've had Hasogas HaShlila. But Hasogas HaShlila means you don't understand really the Inyan because it's too much, but you can be shoilel from it all sorts of other madregas. Remember, you're, as it were, cancelling out from it certain Inyanim in order to get a Hasoga in it. And that's called Hasogas HaShlila. So, this Indian of Seichel Mufla means this concept of like saying what it's not rather than saying what it is. Of a Sokosov, it is a form of Chokhmah.
The only thing about Chokhmah, I need Rishon, which is, I need Osius Ayin.
Right.
So you could say that it's
but that means that, you see, Chokhmah is even from Bitol. It's even what we call Hanoch, Satzmusa, those type of things. The Chokhmah is a from Ayin, meaning it's not a mahuz. But what we're trying to say here is that Sof Kosov, it is a form of Seichel. It is a form of Chokhmah. So how can that be? If you say it's only an Asinus Mokim to Chokhmah, it's not really Chokhmah. So therefore the Rebbe introduces this idea that it's like Chokhmah not. It's like saying something that you can't really understand at Klal. Like Moshe Rabbeinu from the Eivishter, which means that there is some sort of understanding there, but it's not by his slapshus. That's the idea. Erefa, says the Rebbe, Olafisa, according to the Ramak, he's come up with the most amazing idea that he says that the Spheres, Adayar and Atzilas, don't really have in themselves Chokhmah, Chesed, and all those inyanim. They only have it in a way of, as it were, shlila of how they're going to be in Biyah, or the fact that they have that shlila, or that gives a certain mokir that from that, derech haparsa, there will be a inyan of Hagbala Mamish in Bria Yetzirah Vachim. So that was the Yesh Lahem Pirush Chachim V'loi B'Chokhmah Yediyah. He said the B'chinas Chokhmah D'Atzilas ain't B'chinas Chokhmah Mamish. Can't we say, like we just said, it's not Chokhmah in the definitional sense. D'Zeu Chokhmah Yediyah, that means something that you can appreciate. The Seichel B'Zeh Shezeh Shaykh Rak B'Bi B'Biyah. The whole concept of what we say Chokhmah Yediyah, then that's in a way that we appreciate Chokhmah, albeit in Bria or Yetzirah it's much higher. But it's all in the same general concept. And like the Alter Rebbe brings in the famous Maimah in Pasha Iyar, the Alter Rebbe says, like a big Chokhmah, how it is in Atzilas, it's like a sort of a mokkeh shabamokeh to the Indian of Chokhmah, how we understand it. It's not really the Indian of Chokhmah, how we understand it, but it is a form of Chokhmah. So the Ramak, he tells us that it's a form of Chokhmah in a way that it's telling you what it's not. We're not telling you what it is. Sheshom Shayar B'chinas Chokhmah Mamish. In Biyah, it's Shayar, the idea of Chokhmah, the way we understand. Avu B'Atzilas Enu Shayar B'chinas Chokhmah Mamish. Rachu B'chinas Koyach Amagbil. It begins the whole idea of somehow limiting, even though it doesn't, because it doesn't say anything really, but it's already limiting in a way that Chutz Li'Atzilas Yeh B'chinas HaChokhmah. V'al Shem Zeh Nikra Chachim. It's needed that the Eibishter, as it were, has taken on himself the Eden of Chokhmah. Umikol Mokim, says the Rebbe, Harei Zeh B'chinas Koyach HaGvul. Liyesh B'chinas HaChokhmah. Rach Liyesh Elakus. Harei Zeh Rak B'chinas Koyach HaMagbil LeDvod. Koyach HaMagbil LeDvod. What is the Rebbe? What is Kir the Ramak? What does he want? What's the Rebbe saying here, B'Shem HaRamak? He's saying that how can you possibly say that the Ramak's point is, that's a very deep and amazing point, that in Elakus, in divinity, you can't really say that there's anything limited. Can't really say there's anything limited. We say that the Eibush is a combination. That's a very unfortunate word. The Eibush is killing himself, both Gvul and Gvul. And I don't know the Shleimus or the Atzmus is that he has Gvul in the same way that he has Gvul. When I say the same way, with the same Shleimus. Idach. People say, why can't we say that the Eibush produces Gvul? So what he's trying to say is that Kol that you talk about Elakus Mamish, not Elakus out being mitztamtzeim to be a mokir Mamish lebiyah like Malchus Datzilas after the parasha, or you're talking about Mamish Elakus is nim to bebiyah, or you're talking about Elakus Mamish Atzilas is Mamish the Eibishter. In the Eibishter you can't talk about limited things. You can only say that the Eibishter can make limited, just like he can make unlimited. Or you can't say that he has limited Zachen in there. Because anything that the Eibishter has is just absolutely bleak, and it's absolutely mufrishly gabri mikol, how do you call it? Mikol shaykhus elenu klaru, a cloud. The Ramak makes a very good point. Koloid, that you're talking about the Olam Elokus, Atzilas, you can't say that there's Gvul Mamish there, because the Eibishter doesn't have in himself Mamish Gvul. He has the ability to give forth Gvul. And therefore, Olam Atzilas is a Olam Eloki, and therefore it's got parts of it that are able to give forth Gvul. Or not that they are Mamish Gvul. Or Atzilas, even that is Nikla in the Bli Gvul. I found which, because that's the Rotzen of the Eibishter. Das will the Eibishter. Kachu that he wants that the Bli Gvul should be his Gabrus, and the Gvul should be, as it were, Kol V'Nelam B'Techa Bli Gvul. Come over and do success that that's what he wants. Of a Sokosov, he doesn't really have B'Teichoi or Boy his Baruch Eiz Dova Mugbal. You can't possibly say that in the Eibishter. He can have Mitzad Elokusa his Baruch. He can produce Gvul, and that's his Shleiman. Or not that he has in himself Epis Mugbal. Because then he's not Shleimus in Seif Mitela in Yana. And the Pardes, that's what I said yesterday, the Pardes has got a very amazing position on some of these matters, and he takes a very, I've noticed in the works of the Pardes and his whole approach, he was an unbelievable gur and pushed in just unfathomable gionas in systematizing and arranging, and the whole Sefer Pardes is an unbelievable ordered thing with all sorts of beauty and sudorim and all. He was amazing. Therefore the Arizal said that he considered himself a Talmud of the Ramak. That's what he said. The Arizal is because he met him just before he was installing the Ramak. The Arizal met him. However, the difference is that we're going to see a very amazing example. In the Arizal, in the Eitz Chaim and in the Enoch Hanami. Sometimes it looks very strange. You can't really figure what he's saying, because the Indian the Rizal was all Gilui Eliyahu. It's all in your hand. He just Rizal heard it all Milmaila. Ramak was an unbelievable guy, and he was unbelievable Siyata Dishmaya and Ruach HaKodesh building. Ultimately speaking, he worked out a system of the whole Pneumius Hotel. The Arizal didn't work anything out. The Arizal just heard. He heard everything Milmaila. He just he gave over what he was hearing from Eliyahu, not even from somebody, from Dem Tanner, and somebody else. It was all just flying around. Therefore, Enoch, sometimes the Eitz Chaim is difficult to follow. It sort of doesn't quite systematize itself, even though it does in a way, but it doesn't. Or in the Ramak, it's not like that. Everything he says is all out of it. It's just the pilots of work about this. That's only part of what he wrote. He wrote a lot of them, but he wrote them himself. Ramak did everything himself. The reason I never put a word to paper. Because he couldn't. He was just shooting things from Milmaila. He said he can't do it. Yeah. So it's a different type of thing, really. If you look carefully in their works, and then you get a bit of a musag. I can't claim to a Baki. Not in the Parlish, not in the Eitz Chaim. I've seen a bit of it. And the more you study their works, the more you see this amazing characteristic. So that's what we see, that's the Ramak. And therefore he says, the Pashat in Elikus, he ties with the Pashtas, that you can only talk about a possibility that he will reveal Gvul, and that's the Shleimus of the Atzmas. Or not that he's got in himself something which is Gvul. Mikol Mokim, how does it B'chinas Koyach HaGvul? Yesh B'chinas HaChokma. Rakli Yesh Elikus, how does it B'chinas Koyach HaMagdala? That's the whole in it's Elikut. This is him. Atzilus is he himself. And remember, you can't talk about a Dover Mugba, a possibility to produce. That's, yeah. Oh, so now the Rebbe brings in the Avedas HaKodesh. Now, he was the Maran Ibn Gabbai. He was the Rabbeinu Meir Ibn Gabbai was his name. And he was earlier than the Ramak. He was almost in the Zman HaRishonim, the Avedas HaKodesh. And he wrote this amazing work called the Avedas HaKodesh. It is mind-blowing. Also tremendously Masuda, Perik after Perik. This leads into that, and V'asha al came, Le'er kol hanal, Le'er. This goes Perik after Perik after Perik, and then Shah and something else. It's tremendously Masuda, Moifis, the Avedas HaKodesh. So the Avedas HaKodesh, he says that the Gvul, Hanimta Mimenu Tchila Heim Kelim Da'ah, what does he mean? Why does the Avedas HaKodesh say that Gvul Hanimtu Mimenu Tchila? In other words, that this is already Nimta Mimenu, that Kilo has gone out from him. It's already Kilo, not cold, but it's gone out from him. Where does that occur? Where do we find that? The Gvul which has gone out of the Shleimus of the Eibishter, well, that is the Kelim of the Esesphiras Datzila. So says the Ramak, was the Taich. The Gvul Nimtza Mimenu Tchila, he says the Kelim of Esesphiras, they didn't go out from him. They just Nimtza. In other words, that it's like two opposites. On the one hand, the Eibush is revealing the Nifra Gvul for the first time. On the other hand, it's still inside him. So the Ramak said, how can you do that? So you have to say there's a Nifra Koyach HaGvul, the Tinas Mochel Shiyeh Gvul, Avalok Gvul. That's how he learns the Avedas HaKodesh. Now we're going to see that the Alter Rebbe learns Kohandras. And the Alter Rebbe bases himself on the Arizal, and it's pili play. So now we go. Here we go. Ubay Geras HaKodesh. Now Geras HaKodesh is the Alter Rebbe. Simon Kof. Everybody immediately. They say about the Rashag, the big mashpia in not the Rebbe's brother-in-law, but the big mashpia in Lubavitch, the Rashag. The Rebbe Shmuel Greiner, Esterman was his name. He used to say that for every month or something, for about 10 years or something, a huge amount of time, 20 years, I don't know, he learned the Iyar Chaya again. He said every time he thought that he'd already got it, Now when he learned it again, he saw that he hadn't got it. he didn't begin to really appreciate it. So every time he learned it, was like learning a new thing to challenge. And he was considered to be a very big masculine. So here we go. This is Diva Hamashra Iyar V'chai Yehu. This is the altar of his Lashon. Harei, yeah, he says, Hakei, it's a bit cold, eh? Harei, Hakelim, Heim B'chinas Gvul V'tachlis. And we should kosher Beit Chaim Ad Kan Le Shoina. The altar of it says that the Kelim, meaning the Kelim how they are in the Olam Atzilas, yeah, he says that they are B'chinas Gvul V'tachlis. Now, if you say Gvul, and he would have just left it at that, then maybe you could still learn like the Ramah. And the interesting is that the Alter quotes the Ramah, but I'm not peduking this in. He quotes him in another in. The Alter right near the beginning. He quotes the Ramah, but not in this in. And then he says, however, he's moistened the word Tachlis. Now, Tachlis has got in itself two implications. I want to explain this, I think. The word Tachlis means from the word kiloin, or klois. It means like an end, like a finish. But sometimes the word Tachlis also means like an aim or a goal. That, you sometimes say, was it the Tachlis from them? What's the aim? What's it going to achieve? It's like you might call the achievement. So immediately you say the word Tachlis, you mean on the one hand you're only going to a certain point. Beyond that you're not going. And secondly is that it's like aiming at something. We had earlier in Hemshech, remember we had in the Maimon on Eichi, I think it was, that the Rebbe said, the way you're talking about something being done with kavona, then you're already limiting in something, you're making some achona, let's say. And if here we say tachlis, then that means also some form of shaping towards a goal, or that's only that you're moving towards a goal. It means that you're being mitzamtzum yourself. So therefore the word tachlis, if the Alter Rebbe says that they're gvul and tachlis, then that means that they're mamish mugbal. Meaning that the gvula nimtzum mimenu tchila, that the Avedis HaKodesh says, according to the Alter Rebbe, would mean, it would seem, that they are mamish gvul, they're the koyach gvul already begalui. And the chiddush nifra from that will be that even inside Elokus himself, he's already showed you the actual gvul kipshuta. And that's like that's what the Ramak doesn't want. And therefore it's like two contradicting inyanim. So we have to say, like I said, that you have to go back to Eliyahu Hanavi with that sort of problem. Erefa, says the Alter Rebbe, that they are in from Gvul Tachlis. But who Mashikosa B'Eit Chaim Shar Drusha Abiyah Rosh Perek Daled V'Zereshon. Now that's a quote from the Eit Chaim. Shar Drusha Abiyah. Well, that's a portion of the Eit Chaim, and in that Gufa that's divided into prokim, and that's Reish Perek Daled at the beginning of Perek Daled. V'Zereshon. Ki yesh b'hem Gvul u'Midor. That the Kelim of Atzilas have in themselves Gvul u'Midor, k'mo yishkosu b'Pirkei HaYicholes. Now the Pirkei HaYicholes, that's a very big early Kabbalah work, and that's miyuchas to Rabbi Yishmael, to the Tana Rabbi Yishmael, the Pirkei HaYicholes. I have it around the Pirkei HaYicholes. I'm not exactly sure I got it, but I know I got it. the Pirkei HaYicholes, I've had that. It's very rare. Once upon a time, and one day I happened to be in the shop and I saw it. I didn't have any money, and I just walked up. I didn't run out of the shop. So I said, if I can come back with the money later, I remember I had some problem, but I made sure I took that tape. Anyway, the Pirkei HaYicholes is miyuchas to Rabbi Yishmael. It's written over there in the Pirkei HaYicholes, B'shiur koimo shel yotze b'reishis. Like these very early Sforim, they talk in sort of almost metaphorical language. And he says that literally the height, the shiur koma, meaning like almost like the bigness, the height, the height of his height, the measure of his height, of the Yotze Bereshis, Now what does Yetzer Bereshis mean? He who shapes the Bereshis. Reish Lamed Vav Alofim Revoves Parsoi. 236,000, tens of thousands of parsoi. And a parsa is about 2 miles. So it's a pretty huge measurement. Yes, he says, "V'koi ala kelim des spheres at kan dvorim." We're being very brief in the quotes. That's up to hear the quote from the Eitz Chaim. That's an amazing thing. The Eitz Chaim, the Rabbeinu Chaim Vital, says that the results told him that this quote from the Pirkei Choles talking about Yetzer Bereshis. Now, what is it? Where does he get to the kelim of Atzilus from the expression Yetzer Bereshis? Because Yetzer means that you're already shaping something. Boirei is yesh mean iron. Yotzer means when you've already gone some direction towards it, and now you're shaping the whole thing. Right? So he says that the inyan of Yetzer Bereshis means the koyach in Elikus to give forth Bereshis Bora. What is that koyach? That's a kelim of Atzilus. That's a tight us. That's to say inside the Eibusha, even that he's still Yetzer, but he's Yetzer of the Bereshis, meaning the koyach which produces us the ultimate Bereshis Bora. But that's Takabora. Right? He said, what is that? It says the result, that is a kelim da'atzilus. Because if not the kelim da'atzilus, then you wouldn't get the ability to bring the rots down into the malchus to bring the yesh mi'ayin. And if I Yetzer Bereshis is the kelim da'atzilus, and he says they are reish lamed vav alofim ravav is parsoi. So it's a huge size. Right? But he said that that's what they are. In other words, that Ki'ilu, the Kelim of Atzilus have a huge, immense size. Whether he means each Kli or all of them together, that's another. That's another Hakira. Also, he gives a number. Harei, Sha'kelim Atzmon, Heim Befinas Gvul, V'tachnes. He said it follows that what the Alter Rebbe said is going in the shit of the Rizal, and it's mamish kibshuri gvul v'tach. I mean, you can't type something like that any other way. Because if he would say, no, this is only a reference to something tremendously mufshat or something, the Rizal just brings it, or rather, Rabbeinu Chaim Vital writes it, bishmoy, push it. And if I says the Rebbe follows, Ulefize, Masha Kosu B'Seifi Yetzira Midoson Eser She'ein Lahem Seif Iyar Shilafarish Kepi Apar Days. You can't possibly say, that the Par is in Shein Rak B'Chinas Koyachagu, because according to the Pardes, they don't have any Gvul B'Klali. Each spirit is Mamish B'Li, and that's Gufa. It means mamish b'ligvul, according to the Pardes. It's only like a koyach to cause the gul to come out later on. But gam kepirush Ramban, you can't very touch it according to the Ramban. Yesharei oimer shezeh inyan shiur koimo reish lamada lofim. What did the Ramban say? The Ramban says that each sphere is Ein Sof, each one on its own. Chokhmah ad Ein Sof, Chesed ad Ein Sof. That's what the Ramban said. Or if I say that the kelim are only Reish Lamed, so each kelim, each kelim is Reish Lamed, Parasoi. It ends someplace. It's not just ad Ein Sof. Emma, is that if we're going according to this and we run into a problem that we're talking mamish about Ein Sof, Mida Ugvu, So he says, where are we? Mida Ushiyu Bi'ais Pashta. And the Ramban wanted to learn that they ain't safely is Pashtus called Sphira of a Sphira. So he said, come to us, that if we're going to say that the Kli is Reish Lamed Vav Pashta, that that's a Shia in the Etzem is Pashtus, so called Sphira of a Sphira. Even though the Ramban is a little bit more liberal than the Pardes, you also can't learn according to him. So, the Alter Rebbe is going the shit of the Eitz Chaim and come with a new idea altogether that in the Olam Eloki, in the Olam Elokus, you've already got mamish, and the Avedis HaKodesh is also taken in simplicity. The Avedis HaKodesh says a Gvul HaNimtzo Rishayna Tchila is the Esesfirata Kelim, I'm sorry, that's Esesfirata. The Alter Rebbe takes over the pashtus. That's Gvul, and it's Gvul HaNimtzo Memena Tachila. What's the Lashon? Ein Lahem? Say, Midos and Ezra Shein Lahem? Say, what's it Shein Lahem? Say, Evo Ein Lahem? Say. So therefore, to Tzorik Loima, the Ladas Eitz Chaim, Mahainu B'Bchinas HaOiros. So we're going to have to say that Ein Lahem Seif is referring to the Oiros. Not to the Kelim, but to the Oiros. The Gambi Yislab Shusen Ba Kelim. That even when they're mislavish in the Kelim of the Esespheres, they also remain Ein. They also remain Ein Seif. Yeah, Shahim. Yeah, but the Gambi Yislab Shusen Ba Kelim, Shahim B'Bchinas Esa Oiros. So when they enter the Kelim, they're Esa Oiros. Or we have to say, Emes, they become Esa Oiros. Or nonetheless, each one of them is Ein. So, in other words, we'll have to learn the Ramban, Loi Kilshena, I will let go this gang of Bisol and say that each Oir, H is a Mislavish Bakeli, of a Etz Minyon is that he's Ein Loi. So, So, yeah.
If the Eidos are Ein Seif, how can you contain them in Kalim, which we're saying...
How do they fit into the Kalim? Right now. I mean, we're back to our own problem. We've been doing the whole time with this problem. How do you get Believul and Gvul? How do they come together? All of a sudden, it's like, going around and coming back to our point of departure. It's a very amazing idea. And if we have to say that something is cooking here, that we're going to have to eventually do something with these oiros. So something's got to give way. And if we're going to have to learn later on, we'll see. I'll just give you a little look into the future that there's a tzimtzum in these oiros. We're going to see an amazing idea that the oiros are bligvul, but they're not mamish ain't safe. Or they're ain't safe, but they're not mamish bligvul. And in Emerson, if you want, I'll show it to you in the Hagur, in the second Perek of Tanya. I took out my Tanya tonight and I took a look, and there it is written right in front of your nose. The Rebbe Shab is close. It's one of those amazing things that none of us really understand, but that's what's written. Hagur, that the Alter Rebbe says that Antu Chochem V'loi B'Chochem Yediyah, Elahu B'Choch Mosei, that the Abbas is Chochem is mamish united with him. Well, that's what we're saying, isn't it? Okay. So he says, B'Hoidu Loi Chochem HaKabbalah. Yeah, the Chachmei Kabbalah agreed with him. You see how the Alter Rebbe gives him a Zifu Kovid the Ramak. The Garam Lefi Kabbalah Arizal, even according to Kabbalah, the Arizal Yitziva Milza, it's very strong, it stands firm. Yeah, Besaid, he slapshes Eirein Seif Baruchu, Al Yidei Tzimtzumim Rabim, Bekelim de Chabad Da'atzilah. In other words, he says, how can you say that who v'chok mosei echad? Because the Eivishter Kamoisha, who ain't speak Baruch Hu, he's mislavish in the Kelim da Atzilas, and that makes him who v'chok mosei echad. Antu Chachim makes the Eivishter Mamish who v'chok mosei echad. He's toch ain't speak. What's he doing in the Kelim the Chabad Atzilas? Kelim the Chabad Atzilas. So the Alter Rebbe says they did Tzimtzumim Rabim. And so if Tzimtzumim Rabim was a Pesayir Ein Seif. If Tzimtzumim Rabim was a Pesayir Ein Seif. Tzimtzumim Rabim, I mean, it's a lot of Tzimtzumim. And then on the other hand, they say, oh no, that's him. That's the Eir Ein Seif. Antu Chachim, who Chok Mosei, that is Shvaif the Rambam. The Alter Rebbe is right. That's good. who state this in the Kabbalah from the Ramak? That's very interesting. I always think it too in the Ramak. What we just saw in the Arizal, yeah, we're beginning to meet up with it. How it really comes right with the Ramak, that's another shot. We have to can't work out everything at one go. It does state what the Rebbe is saying here. Take Kalim de Chabad Atzilas, and they're already the Inif and the Gvul, and the Iyar ain't safe, or they did some Tzumim Rabbi, Mis, Mislavish, and then you got who is very safe, Chokmos, as he said what you asked, he's like what he writes here. How does it work? Makes a Mark Kavanah. And he makes the Rambam right. He said, no, he said, this Rambam is correct. And the Rizal, Milan Gorla, Kabbalah Sarizal, Softecha. So, now, with these brackets, you guys are going to have to keep your hats on, because the brackets is really a little bit of a, what you call it, a bomber, but then we get back into it.
I'm sorry, I'm very confused about one thing. I don't understand why. I mean, we've been saying this so far for a while already, and I'm just very confused. Why do we say that? Why are we talking about all these measurements and different kalim and all this? When we said, like, way before, we said that when you look at Das Elyon, like, there's really the Einod Milvado. So what's the point of all these different?
In other words, we said that Atzilus is Das Elyon, and now we're talking Atzilus about even Agbola.
Right.
Yeah, that's what you're asking. Is Das Elyon, what sort of Agbola can you have possibly have?
Right.
Yeah. Well, to a certain extent, that's what Matashia asked. It's like it's another way around. And we're asking the same thing in a way. That if we say the Eves is Mamish Bleak Vul, and that's why everything in Atzilus is Das Elyon. Yeah. And how can we unite with things in Atzilus Gufa, which are already Vul? How does that fit in? You follow? It's just the same thing around, coming from another angle. You follow? In other words, these things do not disturb the fact that it's still Das Elyon. Okay, so therefore we say now in brackets, Olafima Shukos Beit Chaim Shara Kudim, Binyan Esa Sfiris Da Kudim, Shahin Esa Oiris, Vakli Echot. Now, it's one on that the word akudim is from the word akoid. What akoid means to wrap something up, to bind it up. And so therefore akudim is what's written by Yankov, that he had different types of striped sheep. He had akudim, nikudim, and brudim. So akudim is the first level, and the Alter Rebbe says that in Torah that those the three elements of olam akudim, olam toihu, and olam atzilas. Also upon him, the Inif and Akudim, that they are 10, why is it called Akoid, or like a parcel or wrapped up, because the 10 lights and the Kli is one. There's 10 lights and they're all inside one Kli. Nearer, it appears from that, Sphirale, Shagam Bo'eres Yesh Esa, it would appear from that even in the Oiris there are Esa, that's a sphere. And we're saying that the spheres are, the Oiras are, Avligul, they're Mamish the Inif and the Ein Saif, even though they're Mislavish in the Kalim. That's an Atzilah. But he said, if you go back into the Mokir in Akudim, we say the Esa Oiras, and they all Mislavish Bekli Echod, then if they're all Mislavish in Kli Echod, then just say that all the Oiras are Malubish, and there's one Kli that sort of begins in a way which is bottled to the earth, but it begins to appear. Because that Kli later is mitnaitzet into 10 kedim in Olam HaNekudim. So the fact that he says that there are Esa Oiros, and they all try to fit into one Kli, is a sign that there's 10 lights. Yeah? There's 10 different lights. If there are 10 different lights, what's the difference? In a Zamat in Akudim, what's the difference for one light to an idea? So therefore he's going, the Rebbe said that tends to indicate there's a famous shitta. That's all the shittas are. And in our base he's got a huge riches about that, the Rebbe. But he holds that even in the Oiris, K'moisheim Pshutim, really there's Esesphiras, hidden in them. And he said they come from the Esesphiras, Gnuz is amazing shitta in the Arizal, However, the Rebbe said, it would appear that that is the case from that lesson. However, I don't think the Rebbe means that blows everything we've said up to now. No, I think that's what he means. It seems to me that what he means is that that'll help us a little bit, b'derech Ramban. That the Ramban said that each Sphira kilo has gotten itself in for an Ein Sof. So we'll say now that the Ein Sof is only in the Oyres. However, each Oyer has gotten itself, as it were, Esa Sphiras. Benelam or Behelam Godel. So what happens then? When you come down to Atzilas, from Akudim, in Akudim all the Eros are together inside one Kli. When you come down to Atzilas, all the Kelim are sort of waiting. And what happens is, that the Chesed Shebo'er Ein Sof, he goes into Chesed. The Gvura goes into Gvura. But each of them remains in a open for an Ein Sof. In other words, at Kilu, each Kli is Teifes, his particular oil. Because each, that oil, the Klolos, had not itself the Inif and Esa Sphira. I say is Mavur, in 9 base over there. That really there are already Esa Sphiras in a very hidden way inside the oil. That's not really the main difficulty. The Rebbe is just saying from that it comes out that it will, in a way we help ourselves, in a way we ask a kasha, because on the one hand we're saying that the Eros ain't safe. Now we say they got us a Sphira. On the other hand, it'll help us a bit when I get to the shit of the Ramban and the other, that at least the Eros do enter each one according to his own Sphira, and nonetheless they're still ain't safe for his pas. That's the kind of it's like how would you call it, a compromise. How do you call it, having a little bit of both. However, this is where it gets interesting. So the Rebbe says, V'chodik li iyun, he said, I've got a kashya, but Mashu Kosov Shom, what is written over there in the Eitz Chaim, in that particular passage, in the Shar HaKudim, he said, Sha'oyer lo nimshach b'bas achas. He said that the oil doesn't get nimshach into the kelim, or even into the kelim echad of HaKudim, and later into the other kelim later down, at one go. It comes in, how do you call it, shlavim, it comes like in movements, it doesn't come at one go. So the point being that the Rebbe can't quite appreciate why do you have to say that, what's the problem? If each oil just nimshach into its kelim, then what's the bayah? Each one goes into its inyan. And what's the problem saying that they all came at one go? Why do you say that they weren't nimshach b'basachas kilu? Part of the earth and another part of the earth and another part of the earth. What's in him but there? And therefore he says, V'aymash kosov b'shar moti u'loi moti perach aleph. He said, V'ein sefer Eitz Chaim etzli ko'etz. He said, the sefer Eitz Chaim is not by me right now. Therefore I can't be ma'ayin, I can't sort of look up enough of what I would like. And that's amazing. What's the title of the sefer Eitz Chaim wasn't by him? But just shows you. I mean, some of the Mamarim in the Sefer weren't written in Lubavitch, B'klal. But this is the Rosh Hashanah Hemshah. It's hard to say it wasn't in Lubavitch. And when the Rebbe was in Lubavitch, he had the most unbelievable library that doesn't exist anywhere in the world, but he didn't have an Eitz Chaim. So maybe that just shows you how you shouldn't lend people Sforim. It could be that he lent somebody, in the area of the Sefer Eitz Chaim, and he said, I don't have it right now. In other words, you must never lend somebody else a sefer, because you never know you're just going to need that sefer. A day after you lend it, all of a sudden you suddenly need the sefer. Or maybe, I thought another possibility, maybe we could say, just by way of possibility, that maybe what the hint is, that maybe some of these Maimorim were sort of prepared by the Rebbe even before the actual Tishrei. As he already began preparing, in a general way, or detail, maybe was writing down like reminders or things of that nature, even before Tishrei. Now, maybe he wasn't then in Lubavitch, because in the late summer, in many occasions, the Rebbe Rashab used to be in places for his health, in the latter summer, before Tishrei. So maybe that's what it means that Eina Sefer. I must admit, I find that rather mystifying, that statement. Eina Sefer Eitz Chaim Etzli. At the moment, I don't know. But nonetheless, he quoted quite freely up to now. Well, I think what the Rebbe means is to be miyashiv, a thing like that, he would prefer to look around in the different chapters, this one, that one, that. And he said since he doesn't have it, he doesn't want to take that responsibility. I say, kach ulai efsher, mi yodeh, what's the title? That's like another issue, lo kol kach ger le'etzem inyaneinu, and those who learn with the Samech Tes will already have a slight appreciation of what the Rebbe is saying. Because we learned that Lamaila, the Oiris Hadayah Nimshach Me'atzmas, I don't know even of Moti V'loi Moti. In other words, that they're Nimshach and then they're Mistalik. Remember we had the whole in Samech Tes there. Is Mamela, we could say that that's what he's hinting at with the Ayin Shah Moti V'loi Moti. That maybe the pure is that they're not Nimshach because they're always in a state of like Shoy V'rotze. But that's the Mokeh, Rotze V'shev. But it's Moti V'loi Moti, it's not Rotze V'shev. And the Rebbe brings out a famous difference over the whole amazing Hezbollah. But just for our purposes, that the Eretz Akilu, they're sort of always in a state of what you might call almost impatient motion. The Eretz, that they're Nibut Mistalik, maybe that's what the Lashon that appeared in the Arizal, Loi B'Vasachas, maybe that's what it meant. I think that's what he's suggesting by way of possibility. Anyway, you wanted a bit of work, so you got it. V'zehu midoson eser. He said, so that follows that now it'll make sense. Midoson eser, or mikol mokim ein b'chinas ein safely pash tuson. They will be able to say that the oiras are the ones that the Iyar that the Mishnah is talking about. And when we are the oiras are eser, they're take eser like we saw, that they're eser oiras, particularly if we say that they got themselves anyway, the eser spirits, but each one is nimchak in its keli, but ain't safely is pashtus of what the oiris themselves, or not the keli. Ain't safely is pashtus, which will mean that the mind, like Matashia quite rightfully said, the mind begins jumping. Wait a minute, I mean that just made it fit into the L'shenis Benegir to the earth. If there ain't safely is pashtus, then how do we resolve that, or how do we work it out? That's the Alter Rebbe. How was it the Alter Rebbe back to Arizal? Or that's a paradise. Hemchidus koyacha magbiro. This is a pelle. A pelle. The Alter Rebbe puts an amazing concept, which makes the Avodas HaKodesh very difficult to understand. That Gvul HaNimtza V'meno Tchila in the Elikus itself is already a Gilu of Mamish HaGvul. Eish Lamed Vav. I love it. I mean, it doesn't really matter how big it is, Kavioho, in a way. That's what they're Kabbalah in. Why is it so big and not something else? But the Zach is that it's already big, which means that there's Gvul. So therefore, says the Rebbe, so far, with the Alter Rebbe, we've got and the Arizal, we have a very difficult situation, and it's according to the Ramach, it's a little better, because he said it's only Koyach HaGvul. Hine akelim harehem magbilim es ha'oyer, gamkein. That the kelim are magbilim the oyer. We're going to make our problem even more deeper. Diimi yosei oyer poshut, mikol mokim kishameye b'chinas hakli, hari hu oyer hachesed, upoel poulas hachesed, ukahai gavna, v'sharei asfirit. So he said, come to, we've got here another difficulty now, that the oiris don't just mayor in the kalim and remain kamosh haim. Yeah, we say that the oiris are, bleed wool, is pashtus, shalom aleichem, the mayor in the kalim, and then we all go home and we root off a bit, as they say, we rest off a bit. No, the Rebbe said that the kalim are magbil the oir. They cause a gvul in the oyer. As if that's the case, then it follows that even though the oyer is poshut, now we're going to see that that's also not so poshut. Poshut, he means like every kalim. The simple means could we descend that's his feeling. Whether it is poshut, it's poshut like every kalim. Mikol mokim, kishamei b'chinas hakli, hari oyer achesed. It becomes mamish Iyar HaChesed. The Kli causes it to become Iyar HaChesed. In other words, that the Kli alters the Pshitas and guides it in a certain limited Hiskalas. Ukahai Gavna B'Sharei Sphira. Ve'al Shem Zeh Nikroim Sphira. That's one of the reasons for the word Sphira. Beklau. Diese bepaulis Shaches Perik Bais. V'zel Sheinai. Ki Asphira Mishapreis Umagvilois Habilti Bau Gvul. He said, V'loi Gvul Mamish Chasve. So he says that the spheres are Mishapreis. Mishapreis means that they tell, they talk, they tell, for Lashon Sipur, umagbilos, and they limit bilti bagvul. It's like we saw that they limit the bilti bagvul. He said, v'loi gvul mamish, oh, it doesn't mean it becomes gvul. It doesn't mean it becomes gvul mamish, because we still got to settle with Shaheen. Ain't safe. So we can't say that they're Gvul Mamish. What on earth? V'yesh, he said, Shapir Shu, Beloshen Mispar. He said some people learned that the word Sphira was from the word number. Ki Amispar mi Balei Gvul. Because number is from Balei Gvul. Like the elder Rebbe says of them, Perek Mem Ches. V'afal Pishein Balei Gvul. He said, even though they're not Balei. So, I mean, the father seems to be having his cake and eat it too, right? He says they have gvul, but they're not bali gvul, but they do become gvul. So he now says a word like this. So he says, be'erach shoel shom aposhut. He said, compared to their shoelish aposhut, meaning the atzmas, from whence the earth is coming. Then he said, bali gvulim. Compared to that. He said, be'erach pulosom eleinu. And be'erach to the poor towards us, they're also balikvul. But he said, in Atzilas, they're not mamish balikvul. In Atzilas, ain't safe l'spashtus. So Kupta is that he's saying that Lagavi the Atzmas, they are balikvul. And Lagavi uns, they're balikvul because they poil, for our purposes outside Atzilas, they poil gvul. But he said the way they are, for themselves, they ain't safe l'spashtus. So the Pardes makes beautiful, he's very systematic, you can see the Pardes. So what's he saying? He's saying that when we say they're Baal Gvul, we don't mean Gvul Mamish. We mean, Aleph, that they're Gvul Gabi the Pshitas of the Atzmas, then they are Gvul Gabi As, meaning Biyah, because they're the Koyach HaMagbil, which eventually produces us, the Gvul in Biyah. In Biyah. He come to us that they themselves in Atzilas are ein sof l'spashtus. Over their gvul legabi lamayla and their gvul legabi lamata. As he learned to Ramak. And when I come to us, he said, how do you say, but even that is not understood. If you say that in Kol in the Atzmas the mamish absolutely bilti bal gvul, what do you mean to say that legabi that Atzmas they are bali gvul? Just for themselves they're not. How can you, that's what we're meeting up with now the whole time. How can you say that they are Bali Gvul but they're not? And we're going to have to deal with it. He said, they're also Bali Gvul. He says they're not Mamish Gvul. Bali Gvul. ליש מבחינת כוח כגור על כפונים וכן בפעולוסים אלינו שפועלים שיהיה מבחינת הגבול חוץ לאצילה. Is my clock maybe going slow? This is an old watch, maybe it's slowing down all something. Time seems to have gone very slow for some reason. It's like a slow motion clock or something. What's the time?
Almost in half.
Tell it. I'm not here. Ev's made of special chesed tonight. We're going almost in slow motion. So he says, "V'chein b'pulosim eleinu shepoelim sheyeh b'chinas gvul chutz li'atzila." And v'akelim, this is all the Ramak. So v'akelim hareim misapres. They literally, they tell a story. They limit umagbiles as a bilti bagvul. דהיינו האוירויס, שהם בבחינת פשיטס מצד עצמם, הנה מגבילים אויסם להיות בבחינת עיר החסד ועיר הגר. They're limiting them to be outside till דווקא עיר החסד ועיר הגר. דחי וזה, kommt es in Atzilus, something happens that they become עיר החסד ועיר הגבורה, וזה ולא ישנעשים. Beginnes gvul mamish chas v'sholim. Not they become mamish gvul, we just said in Atzilus they're not. Ki'im kamoshu mayim shenirim lefi gavon hakelim akamesh kosef shom b'shah daled. That's the Ramak. He writes over there in Shah Daled. We had Shah Gimel, now we had Shah Ches. Over in Shah Daled, he writes over there Ramak two Moshalim. But the most well-known of them is this Moshal that if you put water into a red kli, then the water turns red. If you put it into a blue kli, it'll turn blue. If you put it in green, it'll turn green. In other words, that they take on the infant gvul, but not gvul. Amisha, that's his line. Yeah, that they are only koyach hamagbil, but not that they're mamish gvul. However, what does he mean that they're not gvul of lagavi their shurish or portion? They're already gvul. Right? And therefore they got the ability to be poiled, but he said, oh no, it's not gvul chas v'sholim. It's only shorish to cause a gvul outside of ourselves. And where are we? Well, in the movement, I mean, whatever you're going to drain the pancake, say it like that, say it like that. Oh, of course, Bain according to the Ramat, Bain according to the Alter Rebbe, and Bain according to the Rizal, you're limiting the ability of Balgul. According to the Alter Rebbe, limiting it in its etzemislapsis in the Kli, and you're limiting it for sure when it's Meya Mibachutz. There's like the Ramak, the Kash is not so much in the etzemislapsis, but like the Ramak, the Kash is anyway, he says, like Abi the building Balgul Amiti, they're already Gvul. Like Abi the building Balgul, they're already Gvul Amiti, but he said they're not Gvul Mamish Chas V'Sholim. So the Rebbe said, one way or another, you're saying that you're being magbul, the building extra lotomarat. Just that in one case it's more vivid and in another case less. But when you think about it, the Ramak's got it very, very well worked out. He just runs into this problem by saying that like every day shurshim or poshut, they're already gvul. And then he said, but they're not gvul chas v'sholem. So what is it? And according to the Alter Rebbe, he got these oiros which are mamish bli gvul g'lochera, and they're mayor into the kelim, and nobody has any problem. Well, nobody has any problem. And he himself says it. He said, the air ain't safe, and he dates him tzumim rabim. It comes into the camp. So that's the secret. We have to say that somewhere along the line, we're going to have to meet up here with something. There's some sort of, as it were, key to this whole problem. Dahainu, tzimtzum. We're going to have to say that oil is going to undergo a tzimtzum. And the kelim, no. The kelim are einochanami, they're gvul. Either they're mamish gvul or they're koyach gvul. And they come from, as it were, you might almost say from somewhere else. They come through the Rishima. The kelim, as it were, they're waiting. They're waiting for the earth to come. So, the big question is, how do they, whether they're koyach gvul or whether they're mamish gvul, how do they be magbul the blik? What does it basically decide? That's basically it. So we're going to see that the Alter Rebbe said, tzimtzumim rabim. So normally, I'm used to the fact that when I say tzimtzumim, I say tzimtzum, then I mean what comes out on the other side of the tzimtzum, something completely limited compared to what was in the tzimtzum, well, before the tzimtzum. And yet, what do I say here? That's what he says in the Akor. The tzimtzumim rabim, or your ain't safe is mishyachid bekelim da, Chabad Atzilus, and you can say who means him. Echad. The Rambam sagt to say. Well, that's tzimtzumim. So we've got here an amazing idea that we've got a tzimtzum, and it's a tzimtzumim rabim. It's a huge tzimtzum, and yet it's not. So what does it do? It causes that the bli gvul does become gvul. But then the Parah says, oh yeah, but not gvul chas v'sholem. It does become gvul, but not gvul. That's it. So, if we had about another hour and a half, I would convince you. I'd send all you girls up to bed with you spinning the gvul and the legal. I think this fan will be blowing on you tonight and you'll be sort of getting really confused. By the way, did he fix anything up over there? I haven't got a phone, but I've been sending him messages, nudging at him that he should fix up the domes. He didn't fix anything?
As far as I know.
You don't know?
I fixed my own fan. I mean, I did
Huh?
that. I fixed my own fan. It was
it.
broken. I had to fix it myself.
Anyway, so says the Rebbe like this. Acho in, you know, can you do it? What's up with you guys? You don't know. That's all you do. He said, Acho in, you know, can you do it? Da ha'oyer, da ha'tzilas, zeu k'moi she'er intzei, tzimtzum es atzmei. Oh, Amish Perikbei. Amish Te'akov. Tanya is the Ter Shebiksav. You have to realize there's nothing in the whole of all the thousands of Jewish Chassidus that's not found somewhere in Tanya. That's exactly what they taught in Yaakov. He said that the Yinan of the Oyer Ein Seif Tzimtzum Es Atzmai Ni Yesh Nimshe B'chinas Ha'oram Mitzum Tzemes Li Vod. Well, it tells how am Mitzum Tzemeh. You say no, it's Mamish Bli Gvul, Ein Seif L'Spashtusa. V'hainu, she'en anim she'bechines etzem ha'oyer, kim ha'ora leva. It's not the very essence of the oyer, how it is ain't safe, or bli gvul. It's only a ha'ora of that oyer. Ha'ora of the oyer. In other words, the famous principle, ha'ora di ha'ora leva. Ve'ha'ora gufa, hi bechines ha'ora mitzum, and so first of all, we've gone down from the etzem into a ha'ora bilvad, which means it's not me'ena etzem evoim, it's me'ena, it's not me'era cloud to the etzem. And in that gufa, I'm only making a further tzimtzum. So Kumte said the tzimtzum is only in a ha'ora. First of all, there's a ha'ora, and then the tzimtzum is chal in the ha'ora. V'gam yesh b'chidas parsa. Even more than that, there's a parsa bein ha'erein seif ha'ma'atzil bein ha'atzilas. Akamayshi is boy. Well, at least we can throw some sweat off our brow. He's going to explain that later. What's this parsa? Yeah, between ha'erein seif ha'ma'atzil and ha'atzilas. Was it a parsa? Oh, it's a very famous parsa. A very remarkable parsa. We'll see that as we go along. Very amazing idea. Or at least for our purposes, it's a parsa. It goes through a symptom of a curtain, of a parsa, which is a different type of symptom, albeit, as we'll see. But it's also a symptom. ונמשך אויר שהוא בערך להסלבש בבחינת כלים, ליהיה בבחינת אויר פנימי. He said that symptom causes that the oil is now in be'erach. It's, how do you call it, incomparable status that it can be mislabish in the kalim. Because it's an erpnimi. You're talking about the erasevi here. Now we say, well, now it's an erpnimi. Kalim imi yesh b'chinas gvul. Harem kom mochem hein elakus. Oh, he said they're elakus, and this is already an pnimi, so now everything's fine. Shegam l'dasa eitz chaim she'ema she'hem b'chinas gvul mida harem b'chinas elakus. The gvul mida ein nachanami but they're elakus. Vayishkazu b'drush shitas Rabbeinu Menachem Reikanti. Perikvar, whatever that is. I don't even know what it is. Drush, Shittas, Haramar. Haramar, this is the Rabbeinu Menachem Reikanti. He was a man, he was in the Makubonim Arishain. He wrote for him in Kabbalah, and he also wrote a beer on the Torah. He wrote a pure Salat Torah. All of these, Efshela, Kelim, Datsila, Shahin, Elakus, להגביר את הבחינס האור המצומצמת שמיה באצילה. ומכל מקום, הכלים בעצם Husam Prinz Gvul, or Koyach HaGvul. Well, Betchem Husay Hu Prinz Gligvul. He said, oh no, I've got you now. That the Kelim Elakuz, and ever since they're Elakuz, it's possible for the earth to be Meir B'Teichom, even though it's Ha'or, how? Because Ha'or Mitzutzemet. And then he says, however, it's possible for the Kelim, they're Elakuz, L'Hagbil is Ha'or, Shemeir B'Teichom. Okay, fine. All right? No. Kol Mokim, HaKelim, Meir B'Teichom, Husam Prinz Gvul, and the air is Bligvul, Shentamtum Ve'ela, Rak, Shenitzamtzem Ve'Nigbal. Come on. It is it's Bligvul, and I said it was Nitzamtzem Ve'Nigbal. I mean, it's like saying two things. It's like rolling your tongue to say the old expression in English. You say one, but really you say out of the corner of your mouth, something to go. You say, no, it's really Koyach Bligvul. But if it's not Koyach Bligvul, it's Nigbal. How's it Nigbal? I have the Tzimtzum. And because the Kelim Elakuz, they're going to be Meir. I was kidding, give you all sorts of different timing, but you keep coming back to like a central steerer that we started off, and that was his question. How can it be Magvul? I think that's really believable, I say. So therefore we have to say that the Tzimtzumim, that the Alter Rebbe, I was once asked by somebody who was learning Tanya with, in Gemana Breva, that's right there, good. He says, what is the touch? He was a Polish. He said, what is the touch? He said, what do you mean a Tzimtzum and still remains bleeding? You can still call it and say,
What was the answer?
he said, let me rest up. He said, because he understood good what we mean. That's good. We've got to work it out. So I'm going to leave you guys now. Have a good evening. We've got to work it out. What is this Tzimtzum? That's Pshat in Tanya. We've got to work out what is it, this Tzimtzum, that it turns it into a Ha'or Mitzutzemes, and the Kelim are able to get at it, only because they're Elakuz. Not just because they're Koyach HaGvul, but they're Elakuz Koyach HaGvul. They can get at it, but it's really Bligvul. It's him. So go sort that one out. Have a good evening, gentlemen. But this is till next week. Unless I can be swerved to talk about this by the sheer clothing. All these guys are running off to the toilet the whole time.